everybody, it's Alice K. Reckelhaus from Threshold F. Hanani, and I'm so sorry that I haven't done a video in a while. I'm coming to the realization that there is no predicting how my grief is going to go. So I keep thinking, oh, I made a few videos, so I must be back to normal. Why I would think that, I don't know, but it's not that way. So anyway, while we're doing stuff, I may tell you about some of the stuff that was going on, but I want to get started here. So we're working on this journal, which is made from packaging paper. This is not the cover. I don't have a cover yet. And we've done a bunch of things with Penny Whittemore's, that's just Penny, with her papers from her Autumn Garden collection. Okay, and I'm going to set this aside. I have worked for the last few days on doing some prep work for the next few steps. And I've never done it like this before, but I really think this is probably a good way to go. So I'm going to explain in this video what I did as far as prep work and how long it took so that you have an idea. And I'll do a little bit of it with you. And then in the next few videos, we will actually put these things into the book. So let me tell you what we've got first of all. First of all, I did a bunch of envelopes. I got them scored and I got them cut and I did the folds and distressed them. Okay, this took me about an hour, and I have, a lot of envelopes here. I don't know if we'll use all of these in this journal. I'm going to use them two ways. Some of them will actually be folded and glued so that they can be actual envelopes. Others will not be glued. They'll be folded and they'll be placed in, and they can be a pocket or just placed down flat, but then they can open up for the person to write on, okay? And that's why quite a few of them have either a blank inside that I've just distressed some, or they have, let's see if we can find any here. Some of them I think have lines, maybe not, okay, or like light colored paper like this that you could still write on. Okay, so that's the envelopes. And that took me, I can't remember if I said or not, I think this was like close to an hour to do all these. Now, in addition to that, I cut these into squares, because in order to make envelopes, you have to have squares. That probably was another 20 minutes or so. So let's say about an hour and 20 minutes to prep envelopes. And I have a few here. I have 3 envelopes here that I'm going to show you from start to finish so that you can see how to do those. And then I will show you gluing those into the book in a later video. Okay, so there's those pieces of envelopes that those papers that we're going to make into envelopes. Okay, then I made all these scraps. Okay, and I intentionally made all these scraps. I printed paper, some from the kit, but a lot of this is actually from Pixel Scrapper, like this, the checkerboard. There's a bunch of it. Probably most of this actually is from Pixel Scrapper, and then there's a few that are from Penny's, like this one. And the reason that I didn't use Penny's, I use these things, is because these are all going to be pieces that should be able to be written on. Some just on one side, but most of them on 2 sides. And there's 3 things that I'm going to make from that. One is I'm going to make some little notepads from some of these. Not necessarily these papers, but ones that are different sizes, but vertical. And we'll do something across the top. I'll show you all that in a later video. Okay, the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to make some, and this is a little bit harder to just explain without doing it, but we're going to make some groupings of paper that can be that'll have ribbon or something else over the top holding them on, and this part will be loose, and they can either be used in the journal to write on, so they're writable on both sides, or they can be torn out to use elsewhere, grocery list, notes, whatever, or to write something on but put someplace else in the journal. Okay, so that's 2 things: the notebooks, little notepads, and those little swatches of paper, of scrap paper. The other thing is that I'm going to have some pages that are going to have pieces glued down on them to write on. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is, and prepping all these took about 3 hours. And I'll talk about that when I am sorting these. I'm going to sort these right now into those three different, loosely into those three different projects. And while I'm sorting, I can talk. So how do I justify using all that time for prep? I mean, the reason that I did that I used all that time for prep rather than doing it on the camera is simply because, I mean, that would have been 4 hours, so about 8 videos, and that would have been silly for you to just watch me do all this stuff. Okay, so I did it off camera for that reason. But the reason that I would suggest doing it is because it really is easier when you're doing all of the same thing over and over and over. You're going to get things done a lot faster that way and a lot more efficiently. Also, yeah, it's just easier to do. So that's a lot of time though. And so how do I justify that? Is it really worth having these different elements in the journal? For me, it is. As an artist, it's worth it to me to be able to offer that kind of variety, and it keeps it interesting for me. But also, it wasn't a waste of time so much because I was able to do it while I was watching some movies and stuff. I intentionally did it at times that I was going to be watching something, and that way, you know, I didn't feel like, oh my goodness, I'm wasting so much time doing this. It just felt a lot better that way. So I did that. Okay, so what I did on all these pieces of paper is I printed out back and front several designs on, this was probably, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 10 pieces of paper. And then I tore them using a ruler. I tore them into just all kinds of sizes of pieces. And some of them were blank on the back. I didn't mean for that to be, so I just distressed them with ink on the back. So I tore them into all these different sizes. And as we do these things and put them in the books, then you'll understand kind of how to choose the sizes. Because it wasn't completely random, but it was fairly random. And then after tearing them, what took the most time was distressing them. And I found that it was easiest to do 3 pieces at one time, even though they were different, you know, not cut exactly the same, not torn exactly the same. I could distress them this way, and that seemed to work pretty well. And then when I get over on this side, I'd move it so that it's like this, okay? And having it that thick helped make it easier to distress as well, but that saved some time. I didn't really discover that until partway through. And then I'd turn it over and I'd do the same thing on the back, although actually I'd move these smaller pieces up here. Like that, okay? So, and then it gives this one, since this was the bottom, it gives this the edge of whatever I was using on top of it, which is kind of cool too. Where it seemed too straight for that, I went through and just did a little bit more distressing on it. So yeah, so I was able to watch movies. The movies did not slow me down at all when I was working on this. Yeah, so that just worked out really nicely to be able to do it that way. Okay, these are definitely going to be for gluing in. So what I've got here are, I'm just kind of dividing them into different sizes, and I have different projects in mind, but I may steal from the various piles when I'm actually working on these. Okay, and I wanted a variety, like here's some ledger paper, here's some graph paper. I think there's 2 different kinds of graph paper in here. And this one here is from Penny's kit, but you know, I've distressed over it quite a bit, so it's almost not recognizable. So see, I'm putting these in like, you know, long and narrow, or these are kind of a mixture, but they're ones that would work together well for those little snippet or scrap piles. So yeah, so that's what I did. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I should tell you about this. And I don't think so. I think that that's pretty much it. So what was happening in the last couple weeks that kept me from videoing was I was really depressed. I was busy too. Okay, so I was busy with, I thought I was going to have to go up to Maryland where we used to live and take care of some stuff up there. So I spent a few days trying to figure out the finances for that and everything, and got that pretty much figured out, and then found another alternative where I could actually have somebody else do it for me, and it would cost about the same as it would for me to go up there, but I wouldn't have to take all that time away from everything that I need to do. And I was going to have to take my work up there, which is kind of a pain. It's not terrible, but it's kind of a pain because I don't have a laptop, so I would have to take my whole computer system. And also it would have been, that was where Bill was driving when he died, so I would have been on the same route, and I wasn't ready for that. So I was very, very grateful when I found that I could hire somebody else to do this for me. I'm still eventually, I want to go up there sometime, but it may be a few years, I don't know. So that, and then also Tuesday, today's Thursday, Tuesday was the 6-month anniversary. See, I missed a space here that's got white on it. I really want to take care of that. It was the 6-month anniversary of Bill's death, and so I had been planning for over a month to go up to where he died that day. But in the last couple weeks leading up to that, I went through so much depression, and I worked through a lot of the stuff. So I was still planning to go up there, but the day my best friend was going to go with me, and the day that we were going to go up, when it was 6 months, neither of us slept well the night before. I got about 3 hours of sleep, and I think she didn't get much more. And then, it was storming. It was storming so badly that it knocked out my internet for a little while. I think that I had a lightning strike right next to my house because I saw the flash like really close, and then the lightning and the thunder were both at the same time. I mean, it was so, the lightning was so close that the thunder was loud enough for my kids in China to hear it. Obviously not just from here to China, but over the video chat with windows closed and everything. And one of them was about ready to cry. So that was predicted to go on all day. So which it didn't, but from predictions. So between that and the fact that we hadn't slept well, we just didn't feel like it was a good idea to be on the road and not only endanger ourselves, but endanger other people. And that would not have been a good way to memorialize what happened with Bill, right? So we didn't go. So that's what's been happening. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the camera, and the next thing that we're going to work on, I think, is putting in the little scraps that we're going to glue directly in the book. And I'll explain about how those can be used and everything when I do that. I love you all. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.